If you thought it couldn't get worse for the Star Wars Battlefront Collection and for Aspyr, then think again, because given Aspyr's reputation and some of the things that have happened in the past, this is quite shocking. Now, before the release of the Battlefront Classic Collection, in the trailer, people noticed that instead of using the original Xbox DLC, Aspyr were actually using a mod made by a veteran modder for Battlefront 2, and this modder came out and suggested that he wasn't credited or even told that this was going to be in their game. Aspyr then came out and actually publicly commented on this, thanking the Battlefront community for their passion and for bringing this to their attention, claiming that in actuality this was a mistake when recording footage for their trailer, and that the final release of the game wouldn't include anything that was made from uncredited sources. However, it has now been revealed that this was a lie. As when the Battlefront Collection was released on Nintendo Switch, it launched with the same glitches and bugs, and supposedly the same files for both Asajj Ventress and Kit Fisto, using a mod from the PC version of the game in the console launches. And there is some visual proof with Asajj Ventress using the mod that essentially reskins Ayla Secura, and Kit Fisto is using projectile animations that were used in the original mod too. The modder then says they actually went into the files and data mined the build that released with these supposed mods, and claims that there were files of the original mod specifically regarding to the hero projectiles. Now, to my knowledge, this has been patched and an update has actually removed the modded version of the characters, and we're now left with the original versions that were on the Xbox original. And this whole thing is honestly just astounding, because Aspyr have actually been well known for being very supportive in supporting modders and even working with modders in regard to their ports. In case you don't remember, the Knights of the Old Republic 2 Restored Content mod was actually going to be DLC for the Switch version of the game. However, a bunch of legal issues came up and a third party intervened and essentially blocked Aspyr from releasing the mod in an official capacity. There was actually a whole court case where a fan essentially tried to sue Aspyr for cancelling the DLC, and if you want to know about that, I have a whole video on it, I'll link it in the top right. And the thing is, although a lot of people were really angry at Aspyr for not releasing the mod for the Switch, it wasn't actually Aspyr's fault, and in reality they were working really closely with the modders for the mod. In fact, I actually spoke to the lead designer of the mod, the person who created it, who said that it was a real shame that Aspyr was getting so much hatred, because this was a company that went out of their way to work with the modders closely and to ensure that they were all credited for their work. Now, of course, the Aspyr that was working with the modders 2 years ago are a very different Aspyr to today, especially in terms of the people at the studio. As I've reported in the past, there was a massive exodus of people after the KOTOR remake drama, and I was told personally in 2022 by people in Aspyr that some people inside the studio fought really hard to have the restored content mod implemented into an official version of the game because they believed that it was the true version of the game. And it is really possible that the people that respected modders and really wanted to support the mods and get the mods into a modern version of Knights of the Old Republic 2 are no longer at the studio, and the people who are left quite possibly don't care. But with that said, to publicly lie, not only to publications and journalists, but to the very fans who were both defending and critical of you, and who were going to buy your game, is absolutely shocking. Because not only have Aspyr's reputation taken a massive hit over the past few years, albeit some of it wasn't their fault, but they really needed a good Star Wars release, and they had to go out of their way to restore a good relationship with Star Wars fans. And this was the perfect opportunity. The original Battlefronts couldn't have been a more opportunistic way of rebuilding that bridge with their customers, and not only was the game released in an abysmal state, I said this in my review, that parts of the game were diabolical, but they have now lied about stealing fan-made content. Now, of course, there does have to be some consideration that fan-made content for a game isn't owned by the fan. If you make a modification in a Star Wars licensed product owned by a company, technically they don't owe you anything because they own it. It's the same thing with like fan films or fan art. If you use their license visually or you use their products, they own it, and if you sell it or make money, you're technically breaking the law. But with that said, if you're going to use fan-made content in an official release, you should at least credit those artists and credit the modders who support these games when you don't. I know there's no obligation for them to financially compensate these people, but it would have been good to prop them up and say, thank you for your work, we'd like to be open that we've used your work in an official Star Wars product, and we're going to credit you for that. However, the audacity to steal it without even asking the modder, to then publicly show it in trailers for the game, and then come out and say thank you for bringing it to our attention, but this won't be in the final game and it was a mistake that we've made. We would never do that to artists, only for it to be revealed that yes, they did actually do that. They did take this modder's work, they didn't speak to him or credit him, and then they publicly lie about it to everybody is absolutely bewildering. It is shocking. And I really have a gut feeling that this might be the straw that broke the camel's back for Aspyr, because I genuinely don't know how they come back from this, and there is no defending this. Even regardless of this really shitty thing they've done, the game is in a terrible state, and the consensus is that it's a cash grab and really poorly made. And I genuinely believe that fans aren't going to be buying Aspyr's stuff anymore. And I mean, why would they? Not only are Aspyr now apparently lying about taking modders' work and putting it into their official games and selling it, a number of their ports have released really poorly, and the community management in regard to supporting those ports and the fans have been really bad. For example, I know the Jedi Knight ports were pretty rough and the multiplayer was pretty poor. Then all of the drama surrounding the Knights of the Old Republic Switch DLC, again, that wasn't their fault, but in the view of the customer it was. And then to mess up something as big as Star Wars Battlefront. I just don't know where you go from here. And it would not surprise me if Aspyr turned around and said, you know what, releasing these Star Wars ports is not going the way we want, fans aren't appreciating it, let's move away and let's do other things like Tomb Raider, for example. But yeah, so in regard to this, it's just a real shame to see how far this studio has fallen, resorting to lying to their fans, and their customers and Star Wars fans in general genuinely deserve better. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I want you to let me know down in the comment section below what you think about all of this drama surrounding Star Wars Battlefront. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, it helps me out a great deal. And perhaps consider subscribing if you haven't to join my wonderful Star Wars community. And if you want to watch some awesome Star Wars content that isn't negative, you should check this video out. It's 50 facts about Darth Revan from Knights of the Old Republic, a lot of which you probably didn't know. I'll see you there.